It all started on a Wednesday evening in October, the month when the leaves begin to change color and the night wind carries a biting chill. I was a sophomore at State University, and as usual, I was stuck in the library until late. I should have been back at the dorm by 8 p.m., but organic chemistry felt like it wanted to swallow me whole. Professor Miller, with his monotone voice and complex lectures, had me struggling with every formula, every reaction. By 11 p.m., when I finally closed my books, my head spinning from caffeine and information overload, I realized I had missed the last bus. A wave of panic washed over me. The dorm was almost 3 miles away, and I didn't have a car. My phone had only 5% battery, enough for one call, but certainly not enough for an Uber or Lyft. Plus, my wallet was thin after buying a stack of textbooks. Great, I muttered, blaming myself. I'm a pretty cautious person and hate unnecessary risks. Walking back to the dorms at night wasn't an option. The campus itself was relatively safe, but the roads leading out weren't. There had been a few reports of theft and assault in the area that year. I wandered out to the main campus bus stop, which was usually bustling with students. Now it was just me under the flickering yellow streetlights. A small sign on the pole read, "Last bus at 11:30 p.m. I checked my watch. 11:35 p.m. I sighed deeply. What a terrible day. As I was about to turn and leave, a faint yellow light appeared at the end of the road. A bus. I squinted. It wasn't one of the familiar green university buses. This was an older, darker yellow bus, looking a bit outdated compared to the school's modern fleet. It slowly rolled towards me, its engine rumbling heavily in the quiet night. The pneumatic door opened with a hiss. The driver was an older man with a grizzled beard and deep-set eyes under the brim of his baseball cap. "Dorms, right, young man?" he asked, his voice hoarse. I hesitated. "Yes, but this isn't the school bus, is it?" He chuckled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Detour. The school's bus broke down its AC. We're filling in." A plausible explanation given the circumstances. I breathed a sigh of relief. Anyway, it was a bus. I didn't have many options. I stepped on. Inside, the space was quite dark, with only dim light from the dashboard and windows reflecting the streetlights. There were about 5 or 6 other passengers, all sitting silently in the front rows. I chose a seat near the back, trying to relax after a long day. The bus set off, the engine rumbling again. I looked out the window, the familiar campus scenery gradually receding. But after only a few minutes, I started to feel like something was wrong. We turned right onto a road I had never seen before. This wasn't the way to the dorms. This road was dark, much narrower than the main streets, and lined with dense trees I didn't recognize. There were no streetlights, just the faint glow from the bus's headlights cutting through the night. "Sir," I called to the driver, a little worried. "I think we're going the wrong way." He didn't turn around. "Shortcut, young man. Fewer traffic lights this way." His voice remained hoarse and emotionless. I tried to reassure myself. Maybe he was right. Maybe this was a lesser-known route that experienced drivers often used. But my stomach still felt uneasy. I looked at the other passengers. They were still diligently engaged in their personal activities, some on their phones, others reading, some dozing off. I quietly approached a student who was reading a book, looking quite gentle. "Do you often take this late bus? Does it usually go this way?" The young man didn't bother to answer me. He closed his book and moved to a seat near the exit, as if I were a nuisance. I grew even more restless. An older woman sat in the third row, her head tilted at an unnatural angle. Another man, his hat pulled low over his face, had his hands resting on his lap in a stiff posture. They didn't look like they were sleeping. They looked like puppets. A chill ran down my spine. I pulled out my phone, hoping for a signal or enough battery to do something. The phone screen flashed, "No service." Battery was at 3%. I stood up, stepping forward. "Hey, driver," I said, my voice louder, a little shaky. "I want to get off. Stop the bus." The driver looked at me through the rearview mirror, his deep-set eyes glinting in the dim light. A slow, chilling smile began to spread across his bearded face. "Can't do that, young man," he said, his voice no longer hoarse but terrifyingly cold. "We have a long way to go." Part 3. Puppets in the dark. Panic surged. I ran to the bus door and tried to press the emergency open button. No effect. I pulled hard on the red lever. The door remained tightly shut. The bus sped down the dark road, now devoid of trees and instead flanked by vast empty fields stretching out under the pale moonlight. I turned back to look at the other passengers. I tried to call for help, but no one reacted. I approached the woman in the third row. I gently tapped her shoulder. Her shoulder was stiff, cold. As I tried to shake her, her head lurched back in a grotesque manner, and I clearly saw that she was a mannequin dressed in clothes. The two young men, one reading and one playing a game, also dropped their pretense. They stood up, staring at me as if ready to attack at any moment. I knew I had to do something. I looked around, searching for anything I could use as a weapon. A small fire extinguisher was mounted on the wall. I yanked it down. "Stop the bus," I yelled, holding up the fire extinguisher. "Otherwise, I'll smash the window." The driver suddenly swerved left, causing me to lose my balance and fall to the floor. The fire extinguisher flew away. He stomped on the gas, the bus speeding up wildly, creating a terrifying screech as the tires rubbed against the road. I scrambled up, my head spinning. I looked out the window. The empty fields had now transformed into a dark, dense forest, but in return, the two thugs also tumbled to the floor. Without thinking twice, I immediately grabbed the fire extinguisher and slammed it against the bus window. The two panicked thugs lunged to grab me. Luckily, I was quite big. I pushed one away while the other used a shard of glass to cut my leg, attempting to restrain me. I endured the pain and struggled to break free. Part 4. Desperate escape. Without hesitation, I squeezed through the broken window opening. The bus was still hurtling at a terrifying speed. My body hit the road hard. Fortunately, the roadside was a lush green grass patch which lessened my injuries. I lay there for a moment, gasping for breath, trying to regain consciousness. The screeching halt of the bus's engine forced me to stay awake. Dragging my injured body, I ran into the cornfield right next to the road. I couldn't deny it was truly an ideal hiding place. I just kept running and running until I no longer heard footsteps or the rustling of the thugs in the cornfield. I sat amidst the cornfield, panting in fear, and then drifted off to sleep sometime. The next morning, I stumbled and walked for a long time out of the cornfield. Immediately, I went to the police station to report the incident, even before going to the hospital for my injuries. Fortunately, I only had scratches and a deep cut from a car glass shard, but it wasn't life-threatening. The police launched an investigation, but sadly, they couldn't track down the culprits. They abandoned the bus on the outskirts of town and vanished. Perhaps when I survived, they knew it would be difficult to continue this scam, or maybe they moved to another town or switched to a different vehicle, a truck, a taxi. Even now, I still shiver at the thought of what would have happened to me if I had hesitated for even a second before jumping through the window. What if there wasn't a patch of grass by the road to cushion my fall? What if there wasn't a cornfield by the road to help me escape? And were there other victims? What happened to them?